Hey y'all, it's Courtney, and I am back with a specific kind of video today. And that video would be, I'm going to talk about my childhood today. And I know some people will be like, why? Like, who cares? But I've talked to like 3 or 4 people here recently, and the conversation always leads to like my childhood. So first off, let me just say, there is a reason that I am this way. And it's my childhood. Both parents were covered, or are, my mom's passed, but she was also covered, about 2/3 in tattoos. She did have from here down clean because she was a nurse. So, she had to stop where her scrub tops stopped. But from here up, she was covered. Her all stomach, all back, her legs. I mean, she had thigh pieces. Like, she had a back piece that was like this big. It said Eternity. And it had, a black and orange koi fish and a white and blue koi fish. It was super pretty. So I am this way for a reason. My dad was, like I said, he was always like a metal biker slash hippie with the long hair. I don't know if you guys have ever seen my dad before, but his hair is like as long as, well, it's not as long as mine, but it's about down to here in a ponytail. So he's got some long ass hair for a dude. And then my mom was hippie as fuck. Like, she always was wearing tie-dye, like, bright, colorful, like, everybody called her their rainbow. Or, at her funeral, we all wore, tie-dye. Because she just brought the color into everybody's lives that she knew. Anybody that had the privilege of knowing her definitely would tell you that she brightened up their day. So we all wanted to wear really colorful, bright colors to memorialize her. So, and so this shirt, there's a reason I'm wearing this shirt as well. This shirt is older than I am. My parents got together. Okay, so my dad was born in 64, I believe, 64, 65, and they got together at 14 and 15, I believe, and my dad got them these shirts like 4 years later. So this shirt is like this shirt's like 35 years old. It's a Harley Davidson with the, I know you can't see it anymore, but it was a Harley Davidson banner with the skull with the wings, and then the back of it says Barry, and like, they still feel fuzzy. These letters are still fuzzy. Isn't that crazy? My mom had one too, but we don't know what happened to hers. It's crazy that my dad was this tiny at one time. It's a large. It says, has the large right there. Even back then, they said they paid like $20 a piece for these shirts. So like back then, that was pricey. But they had them made, like, couple shirts. So I love this shirt. I've had this shirt since I was 14 or 15, I think. And oh my god, Patience wore it out to play a few weeks ago. And I was so mad because she's got like really, really strong body odor. I think it's just because she's just becoming a woman, so her body's kind of like going nuts right now. I know it's not her fault, but it was her fault that she wore it out to play and, didn't ask if it was okay. But when she brought it back, it just stunk so bad, and I washed it like 3 or 4 times, and it just smelled, and I was so upset. But I bought these, like, it's like extra strength, like crystals that go in the wash, and those things work. They're Arm & Hammer. Anyways, so, yeah, there's just like a little bit of background. But today, I want to talk about how pets and animals, and why I know as much as I do about such a thing. How I've had just about any single pet you can think of. How my dad had a tarantula, or not a tarantula, a reptile room. Um, we're gonna take it all the way back. So before I was even in kindergarten, um, whenever I was wee little, my mom started working at a place called Exotic Jungle, and it's still there today. But she worked at Exotic Jungle, and so she didn't like she didn't want to put me in a daycare, and she didn't want somebody random watching me. So if my grandma Jean wasn't able to watch me, she would bring me to work with her, and I would sit there and talk to Tilly, a parrot that they still have, by the way. I would sit there and talk to her and play with her, and I just remember having a blast running around this pet shop as a little kid. And so that's like where my love of animals started. And when my mom was working in the pet shop, she ended up getting this woman came in, and I think she was already breeding cockatiels at the time, but this woman came in and she told my mom that she tried to clip her cockatiel's wings. She literally cut its wings off. Like, not all the way up to the shoulder or to the connector, but literally, like, to the point where the bird would never be able to fly again. Like, just was never going to be a possibility for this bird to fly. That's how much they cut off the wings. And my mom took that cockatiel in. And I think a few years after that was when she started breeding pugs. But that's another thing. We had a female pug, and this is how I got started on this story the other day. We had a female pug named Pugsley. Anna Morse on her last name on Twitter. She has a pug named Pugly. So we started talking about that, and just multiple other times in the last week, it's came up like how I grew up and like why I love animals so much, because that was like a major part of my childhood. Whenever I was most of this was whenever I was before I went to kindergarten. My parents had the whole kitchen / bar area. There's a bar there now, but there didn't used to be. My dad built that in. But before that, it was a whole wall of tropical fish tanks. They had a saltwater tank with anemones and the living corals and that kind of stuff. And it was super cool looking because they had like a bluish looking light down on it. And there was this one, was it a coral or an anemone? I think it was an anemone. And it was like really like pink looking, and with that blue light, it just like glowed. It was really, or is that the right word? Glowed? I can't, words are escaping me today. But yeah, so they had all those fish. And then my dad started working at the pet shop whenever I was in about kindergarten, first grade. And he was the reptile man. So my mom would take care of all the furry, fuzzy, and birds. And my dad would take care of all the creepy crawlies, the reptiles, the tortoise, the tarantulas, the scorpions, everything. Because, like, the way this pet shop is there's, like, a big front section, and like the front of it, like, okay, so say it's like this part up was the fuzzy furry animals, then back was the fish, and then front, like, say it's separated right here and you go through a doorway into this way, this was all the reptile section. And my dad, it was his job to get in with the 20-foot 20-foot snakes and feed them rabbits and little baby pigs and that kind of stuff. I could not do that. Hold on. What, babe? Ooh, boy, is she in a mood today. She got up at 5:30 this morning, and she is tired. So anything she can whine about, she's going to whine about. Anyways, so yeah, my dad was a reptile guy. My dad would get the big tegu that they had, which is like the meat-eating lizard, he would get the tegu, and he would get the big snakes. There's a Burmese python there that was really big. We also had a Burmese python. He was huge. His name was Zeus. We had to feed him in our bathtub. We had to feed him rabbits. Anyways, he would get all that stuff, and he would bring it to my school every year. Whenever we were in elementary school, we went to Woodburn Elementary, and he would take them there and like teach the kids about reptiles, and basically teach them that, you know, yes, there are some reptiles that you should be afraid of, but there's also some that you shouldn't be afraid of. And he was just really known around the community as, if there was a snake in the middle of the road, they wouldn't kill it. They wouldn't chop its head off like they would in a lot of places. They would call my dad, because my dad made sure and spread awareness that, listen, if you have a copperhead, kill it. Because if one of your kids get bit by it, there ain't no going back. But if it's a black snake, you don't want to kill that, because if you got a black snake close, you know it'll cut down on rats, mice, moles, pest animals. So you want to keep that black snake around. Now, if it's in your house, you don't want to just leave it stay in your house, of course, but just take it, you know, a little further from your house, and that's what we would do. We would go get them out of the road all the time down here, because right in the turn, right down from my house, the sun hits that part of the road, and the snakes just love it, and they go and they stretch out across the road, and they'll lay right there. We used to get phone calls in the spring, or in the summer and in the fall, like, I don't know, once a week, once every 2 weeks, to come and remove the snakes. Also, whenever I was a kid, we would go hunting for reptiles. We would get our snake sticks, which is just like a metal stick with like a hooked part on the bottom. Well, it looks like a hook, but it's kind of like flattened. So what you do with it is, whenever you see a snake, you set that flattened part of the hook right here behind their head, so if you go to grab the snake, they can't turn their head around and bite you. So it's basically just for, you know, making sure that you don't get bit if you're going to touch a snake. But I just had like the best childhood. I don't know anybody else that had such hands-on fun parents. My mom, whenever I was growing up, we would go to the pound about once a month usually, and we would ask them, and this is when it was free to adopt pets, so it was a lot easier back then, because obviously it was expensive to treat them and give them all their shots and that kind of stuff, so we couldn't have paid on top of that because we were not rich. My dad worked at the university, but my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so we lived on a, you know, four-person family on one person's salary. So, and we never got welfare or anything like that, so we didn't have the money to also pay for adoptions. So anyways, it was free back then, and we would go up there, and we would ask them what animals are next in line to be euthanized, and they would say this one, this one, this one, this one, and unless the animal was like really, you could just tell it was not going to make it, or it wasn't doing well, or it was mean, or my mom felt for some reason that it just would not ever get a home, if it was mean or something like that, or didn't like kids or something like that, obviously she would have to pass because she had kids in the house. She wanted to save animals, but it wasn't, you know, you can't risk your children either, knowing that an animal was mean. So we would bring like 3 or 4 animals a month home. We'd bring them home, we'd bath them, we'd get rid of their fleas, we would give them their shots, fatten them up, and find them their forever home. So I had a constant stream of new pets whenever I was growing up. And it was hard to say goodbye to some of them, I'll say that. And some of them never did say goodbye to them because we got so attached within that just little span of time. That's why whenever my neighbor's dog had like, it was either 15 or 16 puppies. And they basically told me they were going to kill them. They were just going to take them outside and just let them starve to death because they had called the pound, and the pound said they didn't have the, not the funds. They they didn't have enough formula for that many puppies. So they were like, we will not be able to take them. There's no way. We don't have that many people to feed. We can't do it. Of course, they didn't want to take the mother, so they wanted to take the babies from their mother. I don't know why they couldn't wait just a little longer while they were nursing and then give them to them once they were full grown. They were 3 weeks old at the time. So anyways, I took 4 of them and ended up keeping 2. And I don't know if I was uploading at that time.
We're going to get Peyton.
Huh?
I said we're going to go and get Peyton.
Alright, come right back.
Alright.
So yeah, it was just really awesome growing up like that. I wouldn't wish any other way of growing up. One night we came home from the drive-in and there was a bat under my brother's pillow, and my dad took it, put it in a cage instead of killing it like a lot of people would. Put it in a cage and we took it outside, a bird cage that is, because we had cockatiels all over the house, so we had extra cages. But we went out here and we let it go by the street lamp, and this bat just like did little, it looked like it was dancing for us for like 20 minutes, and that's another really cool memory I have. What else? We raised raccoons. We had, we kept hearing noises under the house, scratching noises, so we just thought that a raccoon had found its way under and it was making a home down there. So my dad got a live trap and trapped this raccoon, and took her up to Cooper's Rock State, or is it State Forest? I don't know, Cooper's Rock. It's a forest really extremely close to me, and released her. And a few days later, we still heard the scratching. So my dad got into the house, crawled under the house, and looked in every piece of ductwork, everything else. Found 2 babies. And by that time, Mama was long gone, which is heartbreaking. He felt so bad because he didn't even think to check for babies. It was so sad. But we ended up bottle feeding all these babies, and they were all so sweet until they reached sexual maturity. Then they get fucking mean real quick. I think it's about 6 months old that they start getting like bite each other, like fighting all the time. It's not a pretty sight. So you gotta let them go. But we found 2 of them, and then like almost an entire week later, we still heard more scratching again. But it was really lightly, and my dad's like, it's got to be a mouse or something like that.